He's Henry Gomez, an ad agency strategist with 28 years of experience.
And he's Howard Eibach, a former copywriter and creative director and the author of two books on the creative brief. Together, we're the Brief Brothers, and we love talking about advertising, creative briefs, and briefing. Well, Howard, we're back today with another episode. And today we thought we'd take an opportunity to talk about an upcoming webinar that you are going to be conducting, and try to get people excited and to sign up for the webinar. And this webinar is on the single-minded proposition. Of course, the central part of a creative brief, the what it all leads up to and is building toward, the crescendo of a creative brief, the single-minded proposition. So you have this webinar coming up. It's going to be available to anyone who signs up for it. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of what's in it, what's the date and what's the cost of the webinar?
The date is Wednesday, January 15th, 2025, and it's $89. It's a 90-minute webinar, 60 minutes of actual training from me, and 30 minutes of Q&A so participants can pepper me with questions, share their issues and concerns, and we'll have a conversation about it.
Great. So we'll repeat that toward the end. But I had a few questions I wanted to ask you about the webinar. And the first is, why this topic? Why the single-minded proposition as its own standalone webinar?
Two reasons. First, I would say that over the 20 years of my training and hearing lots of questions about the writing a creative brief, the single-minded proposition comes up a lot. So I would say the first reason I'm doing this is because of what I perceive to be a paralysis by analysis. People overthink this. They put way too much pressure on themselves to write this line because they know creatives, for the most part, look here first, and they'll judge the quality of a brief based on the quality of the single-minded proposition. So I want to take that pressure off of them. I can't make it easy, but I can make it easier by sharing my own experience and the research I've done talking to a lot of folks like you, Henry, strategists, other creatives, so that I can kind of tear apart this thing called the single-minded proposition and show it how it works. The second reason is everybody wants to know this information. My research has revealed to me that whenever I did a workshop, people always ask questions about this. Before I wrote my book on the single-minded proposition, I would type in to Google how to write a single-minded proposition, and two of my blog post essays would always make the top 5. So that's why I wrote the book. And when I went back and looked at the number of views of our episodes since we started doing the Brief Brothers in 2021, the nuts and bolts episodes, which included how, the breakdown of the brief, the most viewed episodes were always about the single-minded proposition. So the demand is high. Those are two good reasons to offer this training.
Great. So there's a lot of information out there now, different to when you first started writing about the creative brief, and wrote your first book. What's different and unique about your webinar that people are going to find value in it?
Well, first, I'm writing this and presenting this and offering this training from the perspective of a creative. I've worked from hundreds, maybe 1,000 briefs over the course of my career, and I know what I'm looking for. I speak as a former creative, a copywriter, and a creative director. I know what I'm looking for in a single-minded proposition, so I can bring that insight. Number two, when I wrote my book on how to write a single-minded proposition, I talked to over 30 professionals all across the globe, including you, for insights into what you think about, what research do you do to come up with a single-minded proposition. So I bring a lot of insight from that research to do this training. So that's a unique perspective.
Very cool. So you mentioned it, the webinar is going to be 60 minutes of basically education, like you laying out the case, and then a 30-minute Q&A. What are they going to walk away with when they finish this training?
I promise clarity. I'm going to show people who attend this webinar what the 5 elements are that go into a single-minded proposition. And we'll call them 5 ingredients. And I came across these 5 ingredients by talking to strategists and CEOs and creatives like you, Henry, when I wrote the book, How to Write a Single-Minded Proposition. There are probably more elements than these 5, but these are the core 5. So we'll break down what are these ingredients, how do they come together, and how can I, as a brief writer, use them to write a better single-minded proposition? On top of that, I'm going to show examples of good single-minded propositions from actual briefs, not briefs that I've written for this training, not made-up briefs, but real briefs that are available on the Creative Brief Archive on my website, by the way, so people can go study them at their leisure. So you're going to see some real examples from real world, and you're going to walk away with all the elements that you need to write a better single-minded proposition.
Cool. So you mentioned one of the challenges of writing a single-minded proposition is kind of the self-pressure, the paralysis by analysis. Are there any other, what else contributes to making writing a good single-minded proposition so hard?
I think it's because creatives look there first. And that's why my perspective as a former creative, a copywriter and a creative director will help. Because some of the examples that I'm going to use are as unsexy and bland and plain as you could imagine, but they're so clear. You have said many times on our podcast that your main objective is clarity. If you can get to inspiring, that's fantastic, but creatives expect clarity. And so the pressure to be clever, to maybe write a headline, which is not a bad idea. I mean, if you can have the confidence to write a single-minded proposition that is headline-like, good for you. And creatives will appreciate that. But clarity is the first thing. So we're going to show you examples of some single-minded propositions that are just like, wait a minute, that's so plain Jane. Why would I be, you want to do that because creators say, okay, I can work with that. That's what we're
Great.
going to aim for.
Sounds like it's something that brief writers, aspiring brief writers, recent maybe university graduates that are getting into strategy, something that they would definitely benefit from. We know a lot of your workshops when you teach are with marketers. Marketers are being pressed upon to write briefs more frequently these days. Probably be very good for them. Can you tell us once again the date, time, and cost for people that want to sign up for the webinar?
The webinar is on Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. It's 89 bucks. That's a steal, man. That's less than a buck a minute. And I believe the time is going to start at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So this is going to be at a pretty good window of opportunity across the globe. I'm not sure if someone in Australia could attend, but certainly someone as far away as India would make it within their day. So it's a convenient time.
Perfect. Well, Howard, great stuff.
Great stuff, Henry. Thanks for this opportunity to shill my upcoming webinar.
He's Howard Eibach,
And he's Henry Gomez.
and together we're the Brief Brothers. Till next time, bye
Bye
bye.
bye.